Okay, do you want to run a faster half marathon without spending many hours on the road? The secret isn't running more miles, it's running the right miles, and it's running the right type of specific sessions. I'm going to give you 3 15-kilometer specific long runs, the key session for you to build speed, endurance, and build that race day confidence. I'm Grantham, a coach and professional ultra distance runner who went from not being able to run for 400 meters to being able to run 68 minutes for the half marathon inside of a marathon. And I did that by training like a 68-minute half marathon runner. It was important for me always to run as fast as I possibly could and try to reach my potential as quickly as I could. And if that's just as important for you and you're looking for the right guidance from a professional, please get in contact by booking a call in the link in the description. Now, I got this great question of Peter. Hello, thanks for your videos. I would be interested in your recommendation for long runs before a half marathon. How many weeks beforehand and what length should you do? I would finally like to run under 2 hours. Now, for me, it's a really interesting question because the half marathon is often overlooked and we think a lot about the marathon and therefore there's a lot of talk about the marathon. How long should the long run be? How long should I be out there for? When should I do the last long run before racing? And that's exactly what he's asked there. So he wants to know the duration and the timing. But what we're forgetting is how often should we be doing these runs? The frequency, and also what is the intensity that these runs should be done at. Because what Peter's probably thinking, like a lot of runners, is I want to be out there for 2 hours. I want to run just under 2 hours for the half marathon, and therefore my long run should probably be around about 2 hours. What that typically then looks like is long, slow distance for 2 hours, time on your feet, getting used to the body, moving over the ground slowly, but for the duration that I want to be out there on race day. For me, we're trying to run as fast as we possibly can on one morning, on one day, and to do that, we're preparing the body to do so whilst dealing with accumulated fatigue. So the rest of the training, the rest of your life, family, everything that comes into this, the whole picture. So here are 3 specific 15-kilometer long runs for you to do to attack your half marathon. Specific long run number 1, progressive long run. So we're going to break that 15 kilometers into 3 sections, 5, 5, and 5. I'm going to work with a pace of 4:15 per kilometer, so that's sub 3 hour marathon or that sub 90-minute half marathon. So we're going to run the first 5 kilometers nice and comfortable, 20% slower than the pace that we're aiming at to hit 90 minutes for half marathon. So what that looks like is 5 minutes and 5 seconds per kilometer for the first 5 kilometers. And then it's going to get a little bit harder and we're going to do just 10% slower than our goal race pace, that 4:15 per kilometer. And that's 4:40 per kilometer for that middle 5K. So then we've got 10 kilometers under our belt and we're coming towards the last 5K of the progressive long run and we're going to hit that half marathon target pace. So in this case, 90 minutes for the half marathon, 4:15 per kilometer. So we're out there long enough to build endurance, but not too long as to extend that recovery. So that means we can do more of these specific long runs more frequently. And for that specific run, we're out there for not much more than an hour and 10 minutes or 70 minutes. But that last 5 kilometers is exactly at the target time that we want to be hitting, exactly at the target pace that we want to be hitting. And everything within that run is relative to the pace that we want to be moving over the ground for our target race. So it's extremely specific and it's also going to help you to finish fast, which is a big factor. If you're going to be out there for an hour and a half, out there for 2 hours, a big factor is finishing fast. It's going to allow you to overtake people in that final third, which is a great motivator. Half marathon specific long run number 2. Alternating paces. Now, I love these runs because they're over very quickly, but you've got to be in it all the time. You've got to be thinking and focused at all times. All we're going to do is run 2 kilometers on, 1 kilometer off. And I'm going to work for this run on a pace of 4 minutes per kilometer or a finish time of the half marathon at 1 hour 25. So we're going to do the first 2 kilometers at 4 minutes per kilometer and then the next kilometer off 10% slower than race pace at 4 minutes and 24 seconds. What that should feel like is pretty comfortable for you to take the foot off the accelerator and kind of float, but you still have to be in it because that pace is still relative to the pace that you're trying to run on race day. If initially that needs to be 20 or 30% slower in order for you to execute the entire session, so be it. So initially what it might look like is first 2 kilometers at 4 minutes per kilometer pace, that third kilometer at 5 minutes per kilometer, fourth and fifth kilometer at 4 minutes per kilometer, and you get it. We're executing that 15-kilometer run, and when we're playing with paces like that, up and down, and we're changing up and down in gears, we're burning through fuel faster than what we usually would. What it's going to do for you is a few things. That 1 kilometer off is going to allow you to move over the ground pretty quick relative to your half marathon goal pace, whilst recovering, whilst getting your breath back, and then going again. That is a very useful tool to have. It's also going to improve your efficiency. So it's going to make race pace feel much more comfortable. And because you're going up and down in paces, it's going to build that mental toughness. So all of a sudden you're on, and then you're off, and then you're on again. And then all of a sudden that off period will feel like it flies by, and the on period feels like it's taking a long time. Half marathon specific long run, number 3, race paced effort. So all we're going to do here is 3 kilometers easy, 9 kilometers at target half marathon pace, 3 kilometers easy. What do I mean by easy? For me, easy is at a pace where you're still in zone 2. So you feel like you're doing something, but you're not pushing up to a point where it feels uncomfortably hard. For me, my zone 2 tops out at 150 beats. And there's a clear difference between being at 149 beats and still being in zone 2 at 131 beats. I want to be at the top of zone 2. So I want to still feel like I'm in this because I want that middle section to be as honest as possible. And what I mean by that is I want to feel like this 15 kilometers is all relative to the pace that I want to be running in the half marathon. I'm only running for 15 kilometers, and on race day, I want to race for 21 kilometers. So again, if we're using the 90-minute half marathon, so 4:15 per kilometer, what that might look like is first 3 kilometers in 5 minutes pace, that next segment, that race pace segment in 4:15 per kilometer, and there's nowhere to hide there. And then the final 3 kilometers in 5 minutes per kilometer, or if you can do, squeeze a little bit more out and go a little bit quicker. This is a great workout to get right and to practice. So if that needs to initially look like 5 kilometers easy, 5 kilometers at race pace, 5 kilometers easy, then that's where you start. Or maybe you start even before that. Now, when you get this run right, it's a great indicator of where you're at the moment. So if you get to those middle 9 kilometers, you set off and you do the first couple of kilometers at 4 minutes and 15 seconds, and then you can push on and maybe do 4:10, 4:05, 4 minutes. It's a good indication that you should be aiming higher as a goal for your half marathon. And likewise, so that you're setting yourself up for success, if you start that 9 kilometer segment and you're doing 4:15s and all of a sudden that pace starts to feel more and more difficult and you're not able to hold it and it drops to 4:20, 4:25, 4:30, it may be an indication that you need to adjust that target, but at the same time, don't lose confidence here. Remember that you're on accumulated fatigue legs, and once you get that taper in your legs, there's a lot of freshening up there. So the 15-kilometer long run, it's a perfect long run for half marathon training. It's long enough to build endurance, but short enough so that you can recover quickly and therefore do more of these specific long runs. It's the perfect balance of easy running, race-paced efforts, and progressive fatigue, and it's going to help you with your fueling, your specific fueling towards the race, your pacing, and your mental toughness, without all the excessive mileage. Now, because you've waited to the end, here's a pro tip for you to get the very most out of those sessions. What I often see overlooked, especially in a long run, is I'll just warm up in the first couple of miles, or I'll warm up in the first 2 or 3 kilometers, and then when I'm good to go, and you're boosting your overall volume, you're posting that to Strava, it's a nice long run, I get it. But at the same time, the way to get the most out of these runs is you want to be ready to hit that pace in that first segment. And whether it's an alternating run, whether it's a progressive long run, or whether you've got that race pace specific segment in the middle, you want to be ready for that pace. So what my warm up for these sessions would be like is literally walking for the first 500 meters. Whether it's an interval session, a long run, recovery run, or an easy run, I'm walking for the first 500 meters because I want to check out my body. How am I feeling? How did I sleep? Is there any tightness or soreness? And then I'm going into a super light jog. And that is literally me going as slow as I possibly can, but trying to be the best possible runner that I can because I want that warm-up style to cross over into the session. And then there's some dynamic stretching, gradually getting faster, and then I'm going into probably 2 times 2 minutes of the pace that I want to be running in those first faster segments. So if that's an alternating long run, that will be 2 times 2 minutes at 4-minute pace or at 4:15 pace. So I'll see my heart rate gradually climbing up and I'm probably sweating before I finish the warm-up. Good luck. It's such a brilliant distance, the half marathon. You can be doing many more of them in a year than the marathon, which takes a long time to recover from physically and mentally. And so you've got more progress, you've got more benchmarks to see where you're at, and you can improve your game along the way. And a good half marathon runner will make a good marathon runner. And if you got to this stage in the video, let me know in the comments below, which half marathon are you preparing for?